Hey, I'm just going to take 30 seconds here to talk with you, check in to see how you've been liking the episodes of the podcast. If you find that the podcast episodes resonate with you, if they make sense to you, if you've been enjoying them, that's great. I'm really happy. And so I want to tell you about how you can learn more about me and working with me. The best place to find me is on my website, which is www.juliephillipshatch.com. And there you can read more about me. There's a link where you can buy my book if you'd like, A Parenting Revolution for Higher Evolution, Raising Resilient, Responsible, Compassionate Kids from the Inside Out. There is also a link for the quiz to find out the personality type of your child, which is the quiz for the element type of your child, which I talked about in the first few episodes of the podcast way back in September. There is you can read my blogs. I have blog posts. So there's stuff to see on my website. And there's a way that you can set up a time to talk with me if you want. You can send me an email and we can figure out a time that is mutually agreeable for us. Or you can go to the Calendly link and we can set up a time. And really, we just start out with having a conversation because I would love to hear about what you're struggling with, what your questions are. Because this parenting thing, with all of the worries and the doubts and the not sure what to do and the stresses, it's not easy, and you don't need to do it alone. So I'd be happy to talk with you, just have a conversation with you. And then from there, we can decide if you want to do one-on-one sessions or a parenting program or a number of things that happen after that. But to start with, you want to go to juliephillipshatch.com. And I'm so glad that you've been listening to my podcast. Thanks. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Mums on a Mission podcast. I am your host, Julie Hatch, and I'm really glad to have you here again today. Thank you for showing up this week because we have a really great guest, Amy Cothren. She works with and is all about stay-at-home moms. So I'm going to call this podcast, it's all about moms. Not so much about kids, it's all about moms this episode, which I love. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of introduction to Amy. She is the host and creator of her own podcast called Mama Mindset, which will be changing. We may get into that later. She's going to be changing the name of her podcast, but that's what it is right now. And she speaks mostly to stay-at-home moms about the importance of working on themselves in order to raise the future generation. In addition to the podcast, she offers her one-on-one mentorship for stay-at-home moms who need the support of another mama friend. Don't we all? She states, and I quote, "I want to build a community of like-minded women who are ready to find their value and their worth as a stay-at-home mom. I believe in living a productive and fulfilling life through continuous growth and effort, and that improving our communities starts at home. It starts with us working on ourselves. After being home with my 3 daughters for the past 7 years without a mentor, I painstakingly went through the ups and downs, which got me to a place where I absolutely love being at home. Amy is now on a mission to share her experiences with other women and help guide them to a place where they love the role they are in with a mama mindset." So, Amy, I love all that. Welcome. I'm glad to have you here on the show today.
Thank you so much, Julie. I'm very happy to be here. I'm excited to be a part of your show. Thank you.
Yeah, well, great. The stay-at-home moms it's a big deal. I know that when I was back and forth and I did some stay-at-home, I worked full-time, I worked part-time, and it's stay-at-home mom. Yeah, I got lots to say about it, but we're here to hear what you have to say about it.
I'd love to hear what you have to say though too. I think this is going to be a great conversation where we both can share maybe from different perspectives and different experiences. And it's something that I absolutely love, but I had to do a lot of work to get to this place that I loved it. I knew that it was what I wanted to do when we made the decision for me to stay home. I knew that it was the way I wanted to be a mother and raise my children, but I didn't know my place within that role. I thought my place was what everybody else was doing or what everybody else's place was. I thought that it should look and feel a certain way. And I was really stuck in my own head with that. And like you were saying in my intro, I didn't really have a mentor. All of my friends worked. And to give a little bit of background, I stepped away from a career that I worked very hard to get into. I was working in human resources for a local credit union, a very quickly growing credit union. And once I had Gracie, my oldest, who's 7 now, everything changed, everything shifted. And I knew that wasn't how we wanted to raise our children.
Yeah.
And I didn't want somebody else raising them full time. I mean, they would have been a daycare Monday through Friday, all day long. And so we made that change, but I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anybody to look up to. I was asking, my grandma, who was a stay-at-home mom, and
Uh-huh.
my mother-in-law, who was a stay-at-home mom, full-time mom, and it was, I, they coined it homemaker, which I can get into later, but it's
That's like leave it
literally,
to beaver age.
yes, it is my least favorite term. And so I can get into that a little bit later, but nobody could give me any help. Nobody
Yeah.
could give me any tips. It was like, oh, you'll survive, or, oh, you'll get through, and I wanted something more tangible. I wanted a takeaway of like, no, this will help you with your routine at home. This is
Mm-hmm.
what I did to keep up with the house. This is what I did when I just felt like I was so touched out and the kids were driving me crazy and I couldn't breathe, or I was lonely, or, all of these various struggles that we go through as full-time parents, full-time mothers, and nobody could help me with it.
Yeah.
And so, trial and error, getting up and falling down and getting up and falling down. I
Yeah.
hit what I call like my rock bottom. And I just decided like, no, like this is not how I want to live my life. I want to be better and do better. So I
So
started.
tell us a little bit about what you found worked through all your
Yeah.
trial and error and falling up and falling down and getting up. What
Yeah.
worked and what didn't work.
Well, what didn't work was comparing myself to other people, and living unauthentically.
Mm-hmm.
What worked, what really shifted was getting my body and my mind right.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing some workouts. I started drinking my water. I started shifting some of my eating routines or my eating habits. Um, and with that came empowerment,
Mm.
came self-worth, came value, confidence, all of those things. It wasn't about body image. It was about the fact that I physically was not able to take care of then at that point, my 2-year-old and newborn. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well, Olivia would have been probably like 4 months at the time. So she was still pretty little. So I had 2 under 2,
Yeah.
and I could not keep up with them. That's what I consider my rock bottom. And so I started focusing on myself. And I did that in those ways, like I just mentioned, and it more grew within me than any scale number shifted or
Yeah.
how my body looked. Like that stuff was all great, at the
Yeah.
time. I felt really proud of it. But what really shifted was this confidence and this self-empowerment and this feeling of worth and value. So, and from there, because I had this additional confidence and I found this empowerment, I was able to live more authentically. I was able to really lean into the things that I enjoyed doing and the things that I wanted to teach my daughters. And we ended up moving. When I started this journey, I do think it's important for people to know that we had sold our house and I was living with my parents.
Yeah.
So I had 2 babies, and my husband and I and my 2 babies were living at my parents. For part of that time, we were living in a motorhome.
Mm-hmm.
We moved out of the motorhome when it got too cold, and we were living in my parents' basement because it just did everything according that we had planned, of course, like didn't happen.
Yeah.
So I want people to know that, because I think we always wait for the perfect time to start something. We
Yeah.
always want to wait for the perfect time to change our lives or make a shift or whatever. And I just started. I was, we were living in this tiny room, and I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to do this. I have to do this. I had no other choice. When you hit rock bottom, what I consider my rock bottom, like, you have nowhere else to go but up. You have no
Right.
choice. So I think it's important for people to know that I was not living on my own. We were living at my parents'. And then from there, we bought our home, and I really decided to lean into what we wanted to do and create a life that we love as a family
Yeah.
and really live authentically. And at the time, I mean, it sounds like, oh, Amy, you had it all planned out. Like, that's me doing the reflective work looking back, right?
Right.
Okay, so at the time, I didn't realize how important that was and how important that shift was. But
Mhm.
now I look back and I see, okay, you did the right thing. Like, this
Mhm.
was a really good shift that you found. But I know at the time you don't say, okay, I'm going to just start living authentically. You just don't always choose to do that. You just take little steps forward in
Yep.
things that feel good and feel right and are your truth,
Yep.
not somebody else's truth.
Right.
So,
Which is really important. And like you say, only in hindsight can you sort of say, oh, this happened because of this and this and this and this.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so I get your, and we'll talk some more about the physical, not makeover, but the physical rejuvenation, the physical steps that you took for your physical body's health. But
Hmm.
I really want to hear more about the mindset,
Yes.
because I have always felt, as when I was a stay-at-home mom, and I still feel like there's just not nearly enough value put on stay-at-home moms. It is the most important job in the world, and nobody recognizes it.
Hmm.
I once said to my brother or sister and brother-in-law, I said, they should pay mothers to stay at home and take care of their kids. I mean, that's so much more valuable to society. And he
Hmm.
said, well, that you would call welfare, which is kind of
Oh,
true. But
it
I
is.
thought,
Yeah.
that's exactly the whole problem.
Right. Yes.
So how did you get the mindset where you felt like, uh, maybe for me, I was just depending too much on what other people were, like you say, comparing yourself or looking for reinforcement from other people. But if you're relying
Hmm.
on yourself and you feel good about yourself as a stay-at-home mom, I guess, I don't know, what did you do to make change that mindset? Because you do talk about a mindset change, a mama mindset change.
Yes, absolutely. Well, like I said, doing some of those things to take care of my body first really cleared up that brain fog.
Mm-hmm.
And with the brain fog, I could just feel clear and see clear. And then from there, I started reading some personal development books and
Mm-hmm.
really diving into this sense of self-worth. And I just really kept diving into that and realizing, self-care makes me feel good. And when I feel good, I do good and I have the energy to take on some of the things that I really love. And then from there, you know, and really it ended up just kind of happening over time to know that my happiness and my fulfillment came from doing things that I loved.
Yeah.
And once I started doing things that I loved to do, and I could pass those on to the girls,
Mm-hmm.
that's when my perspective shifted.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I realized, no, this is valuable. There is value here. And
Ah,
I have a lot of support from my husband, and I want to make sure to include all listeners in this, whether you're, if it's single moms and there's all kinds of dynamics and families and things like that. And so I will add that my husband is very supportive in my role at home. It was not a lack of support from him at all. It was all about me questioning my self-worth. Am I
yeah.
valuable enough? Am I doing enough? Am I being enough? And as I saw the girls kind of growing and experiencing life, and I started allowing them to come into my world, and doing things and allowing them to see things that I do that make me feel good. And I'll just use an example, but once we moved out here to our property, I dove into gardening.
Yeah.
And I love getting my fingers in the soil, and I'm not a perfect gardener by any means. I follow these beautiful gardeners on Instagram, and I've had a couple of women that have come on the podcast too that are just, they're so good at it. But it's not for me, it's not about being perfect at it or great at it. It's just the act of being outside in the sunshine and getting our hands in the
Into the
soil and
dirt. Oh yeah.
yeah, seeing the girls, run through the garden in their underwear, and I'll go
Uh-huh.
out first thing in the morning and then they come down before breakfast even, like I have this very vivid memory of this was 2 years ago, I think. And I was down in the garden and my oldest came barreling out of the house and she was like, Olivia, mom's in the garden already this morning. And they just come out straight from their beds, jump down into the garden and start playing in the dirt. And it's like 7 o'clock in the morning. And,
Uh-huh.
and those are the things that really fill me up.
Oh
Those
my
are the things
God.
that I find value in. And from there, you realize there is value in what I'm doing, which means I am valuable and I have a lot to offer. And what I'm doing is worth it because I see my kids happy. I see them experiencing life. I see them finding joy, and I get to experience that. So
Yeah.
it just kind of came from with time. Yeah.
That's a win-win kind of a thing because you feel good and it can be nothing but good for your kids. I mean, my gosh, how lucky they
Yeah.
are to have somebody who's letting them run around a garden in their underwear or whatever, have a
Yes.
garden at
Yeah.
all, to know how
Yes.
that experience is I
Yes.
think lacking in a lot of kids' childhood, their
Yeah.
experiences. So
Yeah.
good.
I wanted to add, Julie, too, to that part of that mindset shift also that you're talking about really comes from me approaching my role as a stay-at-home mom as a career.
Yeah.
And once I started approaching it as a job, that really opened my eyes to there is value here. There's a lot of value here. And we've actually sat down and we've wrote down like, this is what it would cost if we were hiring somebody to do all of our laundry. This is what it would cost if we were hiring somebody to take care of the house. And, and we've actually wrote down and put down on paper, we monetized my role basically.
Yeah.
And this is what it was. And so then you really realize from a monetary standpoint, you are valuable, even though you're not getting that paycheck. What you're providing for your family and the support you're providing is probably more than what you would be making out. I know it was more than what I was making outside of the home.
Yeah.
So that was a big shift for me. I get up in the morning and I get ready for the day and I approach it the same way I would as if I was getting ready for a job outside of the home.
Yeah.
And that really helped that mindset shift too.
That's a very interesting way to look at it. And you're just talking about the tangible monetary value, but the intangible emotion and psychological health for your
Yes.
kids is just, you can't put a dollar value on that. And there's only
No.
you only get one chance at this. You only get one chance at raising your kids. And
Right.
um, monetary certainly helps make it a little bit more justifiable, but those intangible things that you don't put in the bank go into the
Absolutely.
human part.
Yes. Yes. Right to your soul. Yes.
That's right. Now you say, I'm looking on your website, which, by the way, for all you listeners, her website is Amy Cothren, that's COTHREN.com. You say that you want to squash the hot mess mom culture. I love the word. I love the term hot mess, especially hot mess moms. So first, can you describe what is the hot mess mom culture and what do we do to squash it?
Yes. First of all, I do want to add that I think that the initial point of the quote hot mess mom culture was supposed to actually help women. I think it was actually supposed to help bring a sense of normalcy to the struggles of being a mom, and that we aren't perfect, and we are not up on this pedestal, and sometimes we do walk around with a top bun in our hair, and we're not always completely put together because we're busy and we're always giving, we're always outpouring, which means we tend to focus on ourselves last.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand where it came from, but what I want to talk about is where it has now gone, and what that's what I want to squash. I don't want to squash this idea that we aren't perfect, because I think that that's absolutely true. But what it's done now is it's validated this kind of stagnant lifestyle and almost this victim mentality
Mm-hmm.
of, I've had kids, so it's allowed for me to not take care of myself and not put myself together. And it's okay if I, am not doing my hair, not combing my hair, whatever, for days on end. And I'm going to sit down and I'm going to eat a bunch of junk food because I deserve this.
Yeah,
And this
yeah.
isn't all happening to me. And trust me, we've all had those moments, and I'm not going to put myself up on any kind of pedestal. I completely bought into the idea of that back when I was a first time stay-at-home mom and I was new to all of this. But then I realized that I have the choice to lead the life that I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I want to do is I want to help empower moms, especially stay-at-home moms, because that's who I talk to and that's what I know, to tell them it doesn't have to be that way day in and day out. Now, if you have a tough day, then that's okay. But the hot mess mom culture is continuously validating this behavior,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which normalizes it. And
Yeah.
it's normalizing this and makes so many moms feel like the answer to everything is a bucket of Oreos and wine after the kids go to bed. I mean, we've all seen, the reels and the Instagram memes and all of those things. And this is really driven by social media. And I get that. I get this sort of like humor behind it and everything. But at what point are we absorbing that too much and actually shifting our brain? We're
Yeah.
actually shifting our brain and convincing ourselves, no, this is how I should live my life. And my point is that no, you have the choice to
Yeah.
live your life this way or not. And so I want to give women and moms, stay-at-home moms in particular, the power to take back their lives and know that you can make little shifts, practical shifts, nothing big and monumental that's going to really make you feel good
Yeah.
and not buy into this hot mess, because I don't believe that women are a hot mess. I believe
No.
you're beautiful. I believe you're strong. I believe you're confident. I believe you're all of these amazing things. The last thing I believe is you're a hot mess. I
Yeah.
don't want women to feel like that.
And like you say, victimization, the victimhood, that's like in my mind these days, a buzzword. Everyone's out there, they're a victim. Oh, I've had this happen, I've had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
No, as a mother, you should feel proud of what you are and who you are. And you're not I don't know, but I think that that's exactly where it comes from, is feeling victimized, and that
Yeah.
so you've lost control basically of your life. So when you
Yeah.
talk about authenticity, you found your authenticity, and certainly it's important for everybody to live their authentic lives, or live life authentically as their authentic selves. Can you
Mm-hmm.
speak to either how you found yours, or how you help moms, stay-at-home moms, or any moms, really anybody,
Mm-hmm.
benefits from learning their authentic self? How do you go about doing that?
Well, like I said, I just had to really take a look at what fills me up and what makes me happy,
Okay. Yeah.
and remove myself from the idea of what I thought being a stay-at-home mom looks like or
Mhm.
should look like or should feel like. And like these are the things that I should do. I mean, here's just an example. I I don't sew. And I feel like in my mind that I should be barefoot in the kitchen and sewing my kids' costumes. And that is no offense to, I know I have plenty of friends that are amazing sewers, but I kept thinking I have a brand new Bernina sewing machine that I had convinced my family I needed for Christmas one year because I was going to learn to sew. And I've probably touched it 4 times. And I have just realized that is not the season for me. That is not something that I want to do right now. Now, am I going to do that someday? Maybe, but I have many other things that I'm
Yeah.
interested in doing right now. So for me, living authentically is getting outside of this idea of what it should look like and what
Yeah.
it should feel like, and leaning into the things that I love to do. For example, like I'm a college educated woman and I have a business degree. And so my mind works like, we were talking about monetizing the
Right.
stay-at-home mom life. Like that is how my brain works. I'm like, okay, laundry would cost this much, and that is how I am. That is who I am. And
Yep.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
I love just how I'm grateful for how my brain works and for these conversations that I can have in different ways, because living authentically as your true self brings diversity into your home
Yeah.
and into your children, which they take that and they use that and they learn from that. And then they go into our communities and our communities become more diverse in their knowledge and the things that, so our communities grow.
Yeah.
We want diverse communities of knowledge and interests and things like that. And that's one of the beautiful things about being a stay-at-home mom is leaning into your authentic self, doing things, believing things, feeling things that feel good to you. And as I say believing, I just want to add too, I don't know of all of your listeners and how they are, but I try and lead a very non-religious podcast and
Yeah.
non-religious, non-faith based business and podcast, because I know there's all kinds of beliefs out there. And as a stay-at-home mom, a lot of the people that I was encountering were very faith-based women, and I felt very uncomfortable. So this is me going out and being really vulnerable here, but I felt really uncomfortable. Like, maybe we should go to church, or maybe we should, do these things, because this is, a lot of these mom groups are very faith-based groups, which is completely fine, but it was making me feel like I was doing something wrong or
Hmm.
I wasn't doing enough. And then when I finally leaned into the fact that no, I feel the way I feel, I believe what I believe for a reason, and I need to explore that without fear of judgment
Hmm.
on, self-judgment or
Hmm.
judgment from others. And I got really kind of confident in that. And it's still a journey for me. It's still a process. So I'm it's not finite for me right now, but I started to realize that no, it's okay. Who I am is okay. And the things that I believe and the things that I do and the things that I feel are all truly okay. And that's what makes me me. And
Yep.
that's what I bring, I drop the F bomb on my podcast. Like, like I am, that is who I am. That is what I do. And, obviously not in front of my kids, but I'm a woman. I am an imperfect, strong, confident female. And I'm going to lean into that. And I'm going to say the things that I want to say and the things that I'm passionate about, because that's authenticity. That's me speaking my truth. So I don't know if that exactly answered your question, Julie, in
Yeah.
how I do that, but I just had to push that aside and say, like, I want my kids to be unique themselves too.
Yeah.
And how are they going to see their uniqueness if I'm trying to fit a mold that I don't belong in?
Right. Right. Yep. Another way your kids are benefiting from what you're doing. I'm thinking
Yeah.
you should be a spokesperson for, or spokeswoman for stay-at-home moms, because I just think that it's so important. And how lucky for your community and your family that you are no longer hidden behind the business door of the credit union doing human resources, because you can share so much more with your community and your family. So their loss is you and your communities and your family's gain.
Yes. Yep. But I started out on this, with the podcast and everything. I just wanted to help one other mom, just
Yeah.
one other mom. And that's happened and it's great. It's growing, which is awesome.
Yeah. Good. Very good.
Mhm.
Um, let me see. What else do I have here I want to ask you about? Oh, you have, okay. So stay-at-home moms is more than just motherhood and housekeeping. And what was the word that you just used? Um, the old-fashioned word. But
Oh,
anyway,
homemaker,
homemaker.
homemaker.
So it's more than
Yeah.
motherhood, more than housekeeping, more than homemaker, because moms are, and these are your words, and I again completely agree. Moms are the pillars of strength found for our kids and for our spouses.
Mhm.
And so you say, and it's like a ass whooping statement. So start acting like it. You are a pillar of strength, and start acting like it. And so that
Mhm.
is a shift certainly in the mama mindset.
Yes.
Um, do you want to say anything more about that? About how moms are the pillars of strength? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, I think as your role, one thing that I feel very empowered by and proud of is that we are a single income. And so with Brad working, he needs support so he can
yeah,
do his best work in order to support the rest of us. So he really leans on me to take care of the things at home. So that's one pillar, right? And
Yep.
then your children automatically, it's biological for them to lean on you for all of their needs, clothing, shelter, food, love, all of
Yep.
those things. They really have to lean on you. So it is so much more than homemaker. And I am so passionate about trying to shift people's mindsets from a full-time mother being a homemaker, because my children are homemakers. My husband is a homemaker. We all work together to create a home, to
Yeah.
tidy a home, to clean a home. I'm so much more than that. And what we do is so much more that you can't actually see. We are emotional support. We're physical support when we're packing around a baby, there's so much more that goes into it. And I feel very passionately about not using the term homemaker, and I don't want to make people feel bad if that is the term that they're making, but to me, anybody and everybody should and is a homemaker. And I just stay at home mom, SAHM, I think is growing in popularity and growing in normalization.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of people that don't know what that is. And if I come up with a better title, I'll share it with the world. But right now, SAHM, stay at home mom,
People
is
know that.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, and like you said, the ass kicking, that comes from my whole approach to all of this. This comes from a tough love approach. Actually one of my clients, she's done a quote, and it says, Amy's the kick in the ass and the hug that every mom needs. And when she said that, I was like, oh yes, you completely said exactly everything that I'm trying to do. Like, I want to be your friend that gives you a hug, but I also want to be the friend that tells you to get off the couch and do something with your life, because nobody did that for me.
Yeah.
Everybody said, yep, motherhood is hard. I understand. No, it's okay if you drink another glass of wine. It's okay if you eat the things that you want to eat. But nobody said, okay, Amy,
Enough.
shake me. That's enough. You need to pull yourself up and you need to do something. You need to get out of the house and you need to go for a walk. And so that's where the tough love comes in. It's
Yeah.
no, I understand that motherhood is challenging. Is it the most challenging thing you will ever come across in your entire life? I actually think that's debatable. Because it's forever, it's just part of being a mother, and it is really challenging, but there's things that we can do for ourselves to get up and do something about it. So,
Yeah.
not saying that we're not going to have really crappy days, because I definitely have really, really hard days, but I want to be that person, that woman, and that mentor that says, no, like, this is not acceptable. You want more for your life. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to the podcast. You wouldn't be
Right.
talking to me about it. So let's do something. Let's take some tangible action steps forward to doing something about it.
Right. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. I remember after
Yeah.
my firstborn, I was fairly within a few days probably of having a very fresh postpartum. And my mother was down helping me. And it was the 5 o'clock hour and the hormones, and I was crying. I said, does it get any better than this? She
Mm,
looked at me like, no, it definitely does not get any better than this. So that was
yes.
my kick in the ass.
Yes. Yes, exactly. It's, everybody says, oh, it's easier after the newborn phase, but then you have the toddler phase.
Yeah.
And after the toddler phase, then you have, the what do they call it after toddler phase? Like, it's not really preteen, but kids, they're a
Right.
kid and they're more self-sufficient, but then you have the emotions and all the struggles that go along with that. And I think that's, one of the things that has been really heavy for me right now at 7, 5, and 2 is I'm absorbing all of their emotions all day long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I might not be packing around a newborn and nursing a newborn and sitting on the couch feeding all day, but now I'm carrying around this heavy load of 3 children's emotional,
Interesting.
stories. So, and you're trying to create these emotionally intelligent children, and you're like, I can't, just like trying to take on one emotion and then the next emotion and the next emotion, then it all it shifts and pivots. So you have happy, sad, angry, all these things all at once with all three kids. And so,
And your head's going, "Whir, whir, whir."
yeah, exactly. And then to turn around and have it start all over again. And then, people say it gets easier, but it just changes.
That's
Every
right.
every age has its hard, and we choose our hard sometimes too. I want to add that in.
Yep.
We homeschool.
Yep.
And so homeschool has its own challenges, and
Absolutely.
we love it, but it is a lot. I think everything just shifts. I don't think it quote like gets easier or gets better. So I try
Yes.
and I try and remember that if I'm ever thinking like, oh, it's going to get better, oh, it's going to get easier. Well, it's not necessarily going to get better or easier unless I do something about it. If we're struggling with the emotions in the house, what are we going to do to shift that for the next day? Maybe that's a
Right.
bad day, but what are
Yep.
we going to do the next day? Maybe we need to get out of the house and do something like go for a walk to
Yep.
boost everybody's mood. Maybe we all need a little more vitamin D in the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's things that we can do sometimes to try and improve the next day. Maybe not in that direct moment all the
Right.
time, but the
Right.
next day, maybe we can say, okay, today was kind of a shit day. So what can I do tomorrow to make it a
Yep.
little bit better?
There is always another day. And then a lot
Yes.
of times you get, especially with babies, you sort of figure it out and say, okay, I got to figure it out now. And then they change. And then you got to figure out
Yes.
something totally new.
Yes.
It's like you
Yes.
say, you never really have it all figured out. It never really is all fine. Well, yeah, sometimes there are certainly fine days, but it's always evolving and changing, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah. So
nature of it.
Julie, can I talk about as you were saying that, it just made me think about the conversation we were having earlier about the change in my podcast title. Do
Yes,
you mind
please
if
do.
yeah. So for the listeners, as Julie mentioned, it's currently, as we're recording this, Mama Mindset. But I am going through a rebrand, and so it will be rebranded as this comes out in so the name's going to change, but all of the ideas and everything that I'm doing is still going to stay the same. But so now it's going to be Mom in Process. And I'm really excited about it because just like you said, it's always changing.
Mhm.
Motherhood is always evolving, and then we go back, we go forward, we go backwards, we go sideways. And so Mom in Process is going to be the new name of the podcast and everything that I'm going to do moving forward because of that very exact reason of what you're talking
Yeah.
about. So
Yep.
yeah.
Perfect. I think that that's a great name, Mom in Process. And it makes me think about one of the blogs I have on my website. I done an article about my own personal experience of once my kids were grown, I went away and lived on St. John, the Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
I moved away thinking, okay, my kids are all grown. I'm off the hook. But no, I would get the phone calls, Mom, I broke my shoulder, my collarbone, or Mom this and Mom that. And I would come home, and still to this day, every so often, it's like, Mom, I need your help with, or can I talk with you about,
Mm-hmm.
you're always a mom, God willing that that you, I leave this earth before they do. But so,
Mm-hmm.
you're always a
Right.
mom. It's
Right. Yeah.
always a process.
Yes.
So more about what you're doing. You have on your website, Mama's Mindset Reset Challenge, which sounds really interesting. I know that you go into about the physical stuff that you
Mm-hmm.
ask people to do or challenge them to do. I don't know how you want to how to state it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a free sound. It looks really interesting to me. It looks very, really intriguing, really
Mm-hmm.
interesting, something that I would think about doing if I was back as a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm.
So it's free. So can you tell us a little bit about what this challenge is and what the intention is, and what people will find if they go to your website and look for it?
Yeah, I'm happy to. It's something that I'm really passionate about, and I put it out there for free. There's no sign up, there's no start date, there's no group aspect to it. I just wanted a tool for moms to go to as a way to reset their mindset and to shift their perspective and to get a fresh start. And so it's 3 phases. Each phase builds on each other. And so by phase 3, the last phase is 30 days. So the first phase is 10 days. The next phase is 60 days. You take a 30-day break. And then the last phase is another 30 days. And the goal is to complete the challenge, you do it in an entire year. You
Mm-hmm.
just complete it in an entire year. So the 30-day break, you can take 30 days, you could take 60 days, just as long as you complete the whole challenge within a year. And what I've done is I've put together all the things that I have found that are incredibly powerful, small shifts that you can make in your life, in your home, without changing anything, without spending a bunch of money on anything that's sort of fad related, to shift your mindset and really take back that control of your own life in
Mm-hmm.
order to really find value in your role. So there is a physical aspect to the challenge of doing a workout. There's drinking a gallon of water every day. There is choosing a diet of choice. Now, I am not, when I say diet, I don't mean fad diet. I'm saying, and if that's what you want to do, then okay. But I'm talking about cleaning up your eating lifestyle and just a clean, positive way of eating. So a diet of your choice. I want to reiterate that this is not a physical fitness challenge. This is not a diet challenge.
Yeah.
This is a mindset challenge about doing some things that are difficult. In the last phase of the challenge, and I'm not going to go through all of the details of it here, people can go to the website and find all the various aspects. But on the last phase of the challenge, one of the things that I add in is decluttering.
Yeah.
And it's 10 minutes of decluttering. And the reason why I wanted to add that in there, and the reason why I wanted to do this challenge in the way that I did it, is because there's nothing out there for women, for moms, stay-at-home moms especially. And our home, our environment is our office.
Yeah.
And I
Yep.
wanted to include something in there about improving that as well, right? So we're improving our mind by reading 10 pages of a nonfiction self-improvement, self-development book.
Mm-hmm.
We're drinking our water and eating healthy. We're moving our bodies in the best way that we see fit. I don't care if you're doing CrossFit or yoga in your living room in your pajamas every morning for a half hour. We're getting outside. Another aspect is going for a 30-minute walk or intentional movement outside.
Mm-hmm.
Another phase or another component of the challenge is the gratitude journal.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, that's opening up our souls and opening up our hearts to being grateful for the things that we have every day.
Mm-hmm.
Even like I said, even if you've had a bad day, at the end of the day, I'll write down, and I can't think of anything that I'm grateful for. I'm grateful that I had running water to do the endless dishes and the laundry, just little things. You can get very granular with it, or you could be grateful for your life. I'm grateful for this life that I've been given. So I
Yeah.
really wanted this challenge to be a tool. I really wanted this to be free and available and super approachable. Like I was saying, each phase does build on itself. So the things you do in phase 1, you do in phase 2, as well as a couple of other things. Phase 3, you do everything from phase 1 and phase 2, plus a couple of other things.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it is challenging. And people are going to look at it like, I don't know if I can do all these things. Trust me, you can do them.
Yeah.
When you add up the amount of time that it takes to do these in a day, it's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
And really what it takes is a shift in your priorities for
Yeah.
a short period of time. And I guarantee women, if they do this, it will change their life and it will give them that empowerment, and they'll be so stinking proud of themselves. There's no way you can't be proud of yourself after you've done something like this. So
Oh, that sounds awesome.
yeah, I'm really proud of it. And there's several women, there's a lot of people that have done it and are doing it right now. And I love it. I just want to put a plug in there. If you
Yeah.
are going to start it, send me a message, tag me on Instagram or however you want to do it. And let me know when you get started, and I'll try and help you and support you in any way that I can.
There you go. Little
Yeah.
encouragement. A
Yes.
hug and a hug and a kick in the ass.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that sounds really good. Sounds very, like I say, very intriguing. Well, this has been really good. I think the two biggest things that I've gotten out of this is that you see your stay-at-home mom position as a job and you treat it as such,
Mhm.
which is a good, I think, helpful. And make sure you put value in your role as a stay-at-home mother,
Mhm.
SAHM, that there is value in it. And I think that that is the biggest stumbling block. I mean, you should do a TEDx talk. You should go talk in front of whoever the president is when this Biden now, whoever it is, people need to hear that there is so much value, and people just, well, I think maybe things have gotten better, but I just don't see that people have put value, wrongly so. They should just put much more value in stay-at-home moms. I mean, it is our future. It is kids' mental health, it's kids' emotional health. There's just nothing more important than that. And I know the Fortune 500 businesses would argue with me, but I don't know.
No, I don't think so. I say that on my podcast a lot, that I would love for somebody to challenge me in when I say that I feel like being a mom is the most important role of all time. It is the most important job, especially a stay-at-home mom who does it day in and day out consistently all day long. And I don't want to take anything away from working mothers, because I was a working mother for a while with Gracie, and it has its own challenges for sure. But the things that you do as a stay-at-home mom, I just feel like it's the most important role. And that change now more than ever, I think people are starting to see that we need some change, that things need to shift. And our communities need improved, and our country, has a lot of work to do. And the best way to do that, more people are starting to see that starts at home.
Absolutely.
And if nobody's home, if they're all out, how is that going to start at home? And I can't foresee into the future. I have no idea what my children are going to turn out like or end up like, but based on the amount of love that they're getting and based on the amount of intentionality we have within our household, I feel very, very strongly that they're going to grow up to be kind, considerate human beings. I don't care what they do for jobs. I don't care about any of that. I just want them to be a positive contribution to our communities, whichever community they decide to be in. Hopefully it's close to my home. But I just feel very passionately about that. And I think now more than ever, we're seeing the need for that, the need for mothers and the roles that we play, and the need for positive influence at home. So
and you can be sure with yourself, you can feel good for yourself that you've done everything that you can to do that for your kids. Because I would say that would be one regret. And I don't like to have regrets, but if there was one thing I would change, is that I would spend more time. Like I said, I work sometimes full-time, sometimes not. I was always at home, or sometimes I work part-time. And if I could change anything, I would change the amount of time that I spent at home with my kids. Granted, there were days that I couldn't wait for Monday morning for me to go out the door and go to work, but that's not, if I was to change anything, I would have more time at home. But
Julie,
anyways.
Well, I wanted to add really quick. I wanted to add with that, in your podcast, you talk about being present with our kids in one of your podcast episodes. And I do want to add that you can be home as a stay-at-home mom and still not be present.
Yeah.
So I do want to give you some grace in that, in a way. Like you can be a full-time mom, a stay-at-home mom, and still not be fully present with your kids, and just going through the motions, and not actually focusing and being present in that moment. And it is something that I do think that even myself and all stay-at-home moms are like, okay, I've just literally gone through all of the motions today, but I haven't actually been present. And it takes intentionality. So I do want to add that presentness does still take intentionality more than just being home.
Being there. Very true. Very well made.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap up here. We're running out of time. Is there anything? This has been great. It's been very enlightening. It's been really very positive, I think, and encouraging. And it's moving the world in a better direction, I believe, just from what you yourself are doing and your message, and that will catch on and grow and expand. But is there anything else that you would like to add before we sign off?
I just want to add kind of a big, hug. We've kind of talked about that swift kick in the ass earlier, but I really want to just add in the hug, and just let moms know that if you're listening to your podcast, Julie, if you're listening to my podcast, if you're taking steps forward and trying, you're doing a good job. And if you're at a place where you're so overwhelmed and you're so stuck, Julie, what you're doing is incredible. And there's a lot of resources out there with that. I do feel very passionately that if you are in a position and you are struggling to take a step forward, it doesn't have to be a monumental step. It can just be a little step. Just take
Mhm.
one little step forward to doing some actions that are going to improve your life, because nobody is going to save you but yourself if you are lost and if you're struggling. You have to save yourself. So a big hug and words of encouragement from me, like virtual audio hug
Yeah.
after all that conversation. And thank you, Julie, so much for letting me come on. I've really enjoyed my conversation with you.
Oh, so have I. I've loved that. So people can find you at amycothren.com. And whether your podcast is what it is now or whether it's going to be what it's going to become, how is the best way for
Mhm.
them to find out about that? Just go to your website, and is there information about your podcast on that, or would you rather, or do they, I don't know, how do they find your podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast is on any of the streaming sites that you listen to podcasts, but you can definitely go to my website and listen to it there,
Okay.
amycothren.com.
Okay.
I'm really pretty active on social media as well, so Instagram and Facebook. If people, I also have a Facebook community, so they can join the group. But all of that you can find on my website and Instagram. So, and it'll direct you in the
Wonderful.
places that you need to go. So, yeah,
Okay. Excellent. Well,
yeah.
Amy, thank you again for being here. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Very worthwhile
Well,
for
thank you,
for
Julie. Thank
everyone
you
to
for
listen
having
to.
me.
Yeah. So that wraps up this week's episode. And thank you for being here at Moms on a Mission podcast with Julie Hatch. And I will see you next week for another episode. Take care.